Hi, I'll speed the video up in a moment to save some time. I'm laying my paints out on a paper plate. Um, Give yourself a little bit of space between the colors. You want to make sure you have a container with clean water to clean your brush off periodically. It's also helpful if you have a paper towel handy to dry the brush off. Now the first thing I'm going to do is create a grayscale across the top of this area. I've created 7 rows and 6 columns. They're about 1 inch by 2 inch, but you can make them whatever size you want. In the first area here, I'm laying in my highest value, white. The next area, I'm going to make it a little darker. Now when you're blending colors with acrylic paint, you always want to start by laying in the lightest color. So I'm going to put down some wet white. Notice I'm not letting the paint go more than halfway up my brush. Now it doesn't take much to contaminate the white paint. A tiny little bit of black goes a long way. Blend that into your brush with crisscross back and forth motions. Never push your brush and never scrub with the brush. Always back and forth crisscross motions. Now as long as the paint is still wet, I can blend into it. Once it dries, I'd want to lay in the white paint again. In the next area, again, I'm going to put a base of white or light gray and add a small amount of black. I want to gradually get darker and darker and darker. Again, whenever you're blending paint, always use that back and forth crisscross brush stroke. Back and forth. Never scrub with the brush. Okay, I'm going to start speeding the video up here to 3 times the normal speed, just for sake of time. With each area, again, I start by adding in a base paint, a lighter color. Make sure when you clean your brush, dry it off before you use it. You don't want water to contaminate your acrylic paints. So each area gradually gets darker and darker. Always start with a base color and then gradually add small amounts of a darker color. Back and forth, crisscross motion. And in the final area, it will just be pure black. Clean your brush regularly. Again, dry it off before you dip it into the brush acrylic. Too much water in the acrylic paint will cause the paint to degrade, and it will end up cracking eventually. Now in the next row, I'm going to want to add a color, yellow. The row below that, red, and the row below that, blue. See if you can figure out which of the gray values match the color. I'm thinking the yellow goes about here. The red and the blue are very similar. Clean your brush between colors. I'm guessing the red looks to be about here. And the blue probably the same as the red. Always pull your brush. Never scrub, never push. And you can photograph that and turn it black and white to check how close you are. With each row, I want you to create a value scale for that color, going from the lightest value all the way down to close to black. So just like I did with the grays, I'd lay in a base color and then gradually add small amounts of the color that I'm using. Start with the base of white, and here I'll gradually add tiny amounts of red. Right now, this looks to be correct. I'll move on to the next color, or the next value. Crisscross back and forth. Always pull your brush. Starting to notice something here. It looks like there's not going to be enough of a change in these three values. As the paint dries, it will get darker, and that throws you off. Look at the second value. It's much too dark. Yeah, that's off. All of these values are much darker than they should be. So I'm going to go back and lighten them. Again, when the paint dries, it dries a little bit darker. If you have to go back and fix things, that's a really nice feature of using acrylic paints, is once they're dry, you can paint right over them. Yeah, this first area, that should be fairly close to white. Just a tiny amount of red. Now, once I hit the area with the pure red, I don't want to add white to it. So red itself will be my lighter color. That's going to be my base. And then I gradually add black to get it to the value that I want. You don't want to use pure black. Make sure it has some of the color that you're using. So just to double check, I'm going to photograph this and upload it to Pixlr. And then I'll adjust it to eliminate the color and see it in black and white. If I did it correctly, my values should appear identical. Yeah, that looks pretty good, except maybe I put the yellow in the wrong spot. So double check yours. In the end, when it becomes black and white, all of the columns should look identical.